All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Toon Under podcast. Today we've got a few things we want to cover off, but I'm joined by Bobby and Lee. How are you doing, Bobby?
Good, Craig. How you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad, mate. It's a wet and windy day here in Mackay. It should be nice, bright sunshine, but that's the wonderful world we live here in Australia. How you doing, Lee, mate?
I'm all right, mate. You've got your lipstick on again, haven't you?
I need green screen though. The room's getting decorated and want to put up as our fresh lick of paint. So I'm a little bit high off the paint fumes. So I'll start mumbling a bit more than I normally do. You'll know why. But first of all, just want to jump in and say the interview that we were supposed to do with George Culkin, that did get delayed due to the media day on Wednesday, but that is coming later on this week. So apologies for that one. But again, stay tuned to the channel. That one is coming soon. We're really looking forward to that one. We're going to dive straight into today's topics. And the first one is talking about the Saga Cup games and the debut for big Will Osula. Now, I know both of you didn't really catch too much of the games, given they were both on at stupid o'clock in the morning, but Muggins here got up and watched them both. First game, won 4-0. Second game, we won 1-0, and we retained the Saga Cup, the prestigious cup that is in its second year. But the big thing was big Will Osula making his debut. Have either of you seen any of the highlights at all from the game? I'll start with you, Bobby.
Yeah, saw some highlights of the game, not a lot, but he looks a tantalising project, does Osula, I think. So, yeah, I think he's got a lot to work with. I think Eddie Howe will be licking his lips at the prospect of getting him in and around. So, yeah, it looks like a good buy, that one.
Yeah, he had a cracking opening start of the game, a few nice first touches, and he's got a lot of pace on him for a big fella. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but yeah, he's definitely a one for the future. He's certainly not going to be starting many games, probably going to be our number 3 when Wilson is back fit, which hopefully is sooner rather than later. But what did you think of his chance for the disallowed goalie?
Well, it was good. It was a good run off the back of the defenders, so that's promising. You want to see those kind of runs from your central attackers. Lovely spot from Bruno as well. That ball through was absolutely beautiful. I did do a freeze frame on it to get an idea as to whether or how close it was to being offside. Of course, it was offside, but it was bloody close. Though it was bloody close, and obviously he's only been at the club for 5 minutes, so those kind of the timings and the kind of anticipations and the channels that you're going to run into, all that'll come through over time. Yeah, as you say, he did seem to have a lot of pace on him. His first touch control from that ball from Bruno was really nice, and the finish was pretty tidy as well. So, very, very early signs, but if he can play like that on a regular basis, once he gets up to speed and is used to our system, it could be very useful for us. I mean, let's be honest, we're going to see him at some point this season. We might even see him a lot more than we kind of really would want to do, because at some point Wilson's going to get injured again, and if he doesn't, he's like Will. I mean, so it's actually the business side of it makes sense for the club to make sure we've got that kind of third choice striker in case the shit hits the fan again. But he looks promising, yeah, absolutely. We'll obviously have to see a lot more of him to be able to make any solid decisions about him, but so far, yeah, looks really promising.
Yeah, it was good. What did you think of Harvey Barnes' goal? A lot of people said it was a very typical Barnes type finish, classic, where he cuts inside and then puts it across the keeper. We've got big things expected from Harvey Barnes this season, as last season was interrupted with that foot injury he picked up. That's a random freak one. Do you see him challenging on the left side with Gordon a lot more, or do you think Gordon's got that position nailed down? Come to you first on that one, Lee.
Well, the standard knowledge, I guess, on that would be that the left side's Gordon's side, because he does so well down there, and he's got the pace, and he can whip the ball in and all that. But I've said this a few times now in our chat that I could see Gordon down the right and Barnes down the left as our left-right forward position setup. I'm not saying that it's necessarily ideal per se. Barnes does pretty much always cut in. And he always kind of moves to the edge of the 18-yard box and looks for that sweeping shot to the far corner, which is exactly what he scored in that goal that you mentioned. And I think at some point that gets a little bit too predictable. So it's useful to be able to swap your wings to give the fullback something more to think about sometime during the game, if you're changing it up a little bit. And if you think about the right-hand options, Murphy, who, although he's had a fantastic preseason, and Miggy, I think Gordon's ahead of them too easy. So it's to me, it makes some sense to have Barnes left and right, and it solves the conundrum of which one do you play as well. Because Barnes got a ton of pace down the left. He's fast as, and he can score those kind of goals from the edge of the box. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I imagine, though, answering the question, I think he'll probably end up going with Gordon down the left and then Murphy maybe on the right.
Your thoughts on that one, Bobby?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Lee. I think it's Gordon's position first and foremost. He is probably our first pick on that side. But I think with us, when we play at our best, and Eddie can tactically maneuver the squad, and flexibility is key as well. So there will, and there should be, occasions where Barnes starts there and Gordon goes on the right, or they can switch. And we've got to adhere lessons from last season where we played a lot of games with the same team and got injured. So it'll allow us to have that flexibility to start Barnes and bring Gordon off on 60 minutes or what, vice versa. So to answer your question, yep, I think it's Gordon is down the left first before Barnes, but it doesn't mean they both can't start together, or it doesn't mean on some occasions Barnes doesn't get the start, because I think Eddie Howe will have that tactically up his sleeve.
Yeah, so on the left side, as we talked about there with Barnes and Gordon, you've also got the likes of Willock and Joe Linton. They can all play down that left-hand side. The right side, as we know, has been a bit of a struggle. Murphy has been pretty solid this pre-season. That doesn't mean to say it's going to continue into the full season or anything like that. We're going to get onto a potential starting 11, or our predicted starting 11 for the up-and-coming Southampton game, or the opening game of the season. But just on paper alone, you'd probably say Murphy's going to get the nod against Miggy. Company on this one, Lee?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's quite as easy as that. Eddie Howe likes his favourites, and time and again he seems to pick Miggy over Murphy. Murphy has had, though, a very effective pre-season by all accounts. Whether that changes Eddie's thinking, I don't know. Murphy benefits from having 2 feet that he can use, and I think that's there's a lot to be said for that. And obviously he's a great character to have around the team and all that kind of business as well. But yeah, I mean, Gordon kind of solves that whole conundrum. If you wonder which one to go with, and you're not really sure if either of them are any good, you could always just stick Gordon down there, and then I think Barnes is too good to be on the bench, to be honest with you. I know you have to have a strong bench, but Barnes has been a brilliant player from his Leicester days, and I don't think he's really had that solid chance with us. So I'd love to just see him down the left and get a bit of a run down that side, and then we can use Gordon to take care of the right-hand side. And obviously finances have to come to this. Like, how much money do we have? We're going to spend a ton on Marc Guehi, maybe, if we can get that one over the line. How much does that leave for a right winger? How much do right wingers cost? Good ones. You can maybe kick that can down the road if you stick Gordon down the right, Just my thoughts on it.
Bobby?
Yeah, so I think what I would do and what Eddie would do are always two different things, to be honest. So for me, it'd be probably, if we had to pick either Murphy or Miggy, it's Murphy every day of the week. I don't see a future for Miggy in our team. I'm not his biggest fan, because I think, having that ability to be 2-footed does, help us a lot. But going back on Lee's point, I do think I would also like to see Barnes a bit more. It's a strange transfer if you look at it. We said it at the time, like, he's a wonderful player and it was a great get, but we ran into PSR problems, didn't we? And we bought players on a lot of money. And you got to be thinking that there had to be a plan for Barnes coming into the team, not to sit on the bench behind Gordon. So I wonder if that is what Eddie's thinking is, well, we've got a really good Premier League player in Barnes that can play that left, so maybe Gordon does go right, and it solves that issue with PSR because, you know, if we are going to spunk £60 million on a centre bank, well, we've just, how much do we have to spend on a right winger? And they aren't cheap unless you get something, you know, younger and a bit more potential. You're going to spend another 50, 60, 70 million dollars there. So do we have that? You know, lessons learnt, we probably don't. So, yeah, I'd like to see Barnes left and Gordon right, I think.
It'll be an interesting way to go if Eddie does want to do that as a permanent fixture moving forward. But we're going to move on now to the Marc Guehi situation, or Marc Guehi situation. It's a bit of a strange, long drawn out transfer saga, this one, if you want to call it that. A lot of people have been calling out Paul Mitchell on Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days. Now, Bobby, you're a Paul Mitchell fan. I think you've said that from since day one, even before he was at the club. A lot of people are calling him out saying, why is this not getting done? He's got this reputation. So far, he's done jack shit. He signed an unproven goal scorer in Osula who couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo or anything like that. Your thoughts on people going in on Mitchell, and what do you make of the Guehi situation so far?
First of all, I'm glad I'm not on Twitter or X anymore. Don't spend much time there because I wouldn't be able to cope, to be honest. It's just shit, isn't it? I think I said it in one of in the chat. I said you crave a bloke like Mitchell who can go in and buy young, undervalued talent for a low amount, and then suddenly they become world-class players at a world-class club that win things. Everywhere Mitchell's gone, he's improved that club significantly. Southampton, Tottenham, RB Leipzig, and then Monaco, where he won titles. So he knows what he's doing. Every time he's gone into these clubs, he's bought young, undervalued talent and turned them into world-class players. So, you know, I don't know what people are expecting. And when we buy a young, undervalued player like we have, people are like, oh, why do we buy him? You know, there's got to be a bit of patience and a bit of trust. I think all our transfer business from the start of the Saudi takeover has been slow for whatever reason. And I don't know if it's got to do with communication up the lines for getting the funds and dealing with agents and stuff and the fees that get brought back and all these different contractual issues, whether there needs to be sign-off from Saudi. But it seems to be all our transfer business gets stretched for that, maybe for that reason. But in terms of identifying talent, Paul Mitchell didn't come to us with no idea at all. He came to us with a plan and a network of connections and a portfolio of players he knows that he can target. So we've got to give him a little time. He's been there for fucking 5 minutes to be, you know, Jesus Christ, let this bloke cook, you know. And in regards to the Guehi situation, look, he's a wonderful player. £60 million. I don't know what we can spend. That's the problem. Like, it's a lot of money for a player, but he is a wonderful Premier League player, and to get him in will improve us dramatically. I don't know why we're bidding £50 million when we know they want 65. It seems to be like we're just kicking the can down the road for a little bit longer, or we're trying to get a bargain, or whatever we're trying to do. You either pay the money or you don't, to be honest. But hopefully that situation's taken care of pretty soon, in the next few days, and then we can move on to other parts of the squad.
And with your thoughts on the fee, obviously reports we bid 50, they want 65. Would it not just be a little bit naive and very Manchester United to go in with the money that they're asking for and say, okay, we'll take them for that set fee? Do you not think the whole negotiation thing is part of our stronger position in the transfer market and what has helped us get some pretty decent deals since the takeover? I'll come to you on that one, Lee.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, most clubs outside the Sky Six will have to play clever with the limited funds that they have, and you you save 5 million on someone's asking price, and that could cover their wages for the year. Instead of having that 65 and then another 5 on top, whatever the wages might be. I'm just kind of chucking numbers around here, but when you are constrained by PSR, when money is tight and it needs to go far, you have to, as a consequence, negotiate for every single penny, really. If Marc Guehi was the only guy we're going for, and I'm only ever going to call him Marc Guehi, by the way, Guehi. If he's the only bloke we were only looking to get in this window, maybe we would just splash the cash. But I mean, just from negotiation 101, you if you're selling, you ask for a huge amount of money. You don't expect to get it, but if you do, it's absolutely fantastic. But if you don't, you work from a very high point and you come down very slowly. And it's a flip for the person who's buying. You start low and you try and you sort of try and meet in the middle. That's obvious. Everyone knows this. And football's no different. You know, Crystal Palace value their asset. It's their asset. He is hot right now, very, very hot. He may not be worth this much again. You could have an absolute stinker of a season. You could get injured straight off the bat. We you know, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So he's got a limited, 2 years left on his contract or something, which used to mean you could just wait a year, but now it's apparently you have to get rid of them. So I can understand from Palace's point of view that if we're coming in at 15 million below their asking price, even if they're thinking, look, we'll settle it between 55 and 60, 50 is still too far away from that. It makes all the difference to them. They need to use that money and go and buy additional players as well. Not to mention the fact that there's a sell-on to bloody Chelsea for 20%, because of course there is. And that's the other danger, of course. As soon as we agree any kind of fee, Chelsea have it in the contract that they can offer the exact same amount, but minus 20% because of the sell-on. So they don't even have to match whatever we spend 4 weeks bloody negotiating for. They can just go, well, we'll just we'll not bother about the 20% sell-on. That means we get them for cheaper. At least I think that's how that's going to work anyway. So Chelsea's at an advantage. We're at a disadvantage. This could all just take forever and then go tits up. And Palace could even end up not selling them. Who knows? You have to negotiate though, especially in our position. If we want to buy more than just this one position, we need to have as much money as possible for wages and agent fees and all the rest of it, because it all gets rolled up, doesn't it? It's not just the fee; it's everything else involved as well. And that's just one of the other slap across the cocks that PSR, blesses us with. What can you do?
Absolutely. Bobby, do you see this deal getting done, or do you think it's just going to drag on to a point where we walk away, or Palace just end negotiations?
Who knows? Fuck, I don't know. Like, to be honest, when things are usually this far down the line and you're hearing that he wants to come, he's told his close people, his agents, that that's where he wants to be. These things usually have a way of working themselves out, and he gets to where he wants to go. But these days, it seems like these big clubs like Chelsea, who just get looked after with PSR and have endless amount of money to spend, can just come in the last minute and hijack a deal, and for whatever reason, the player gets turned and goes that way. So I think it gets done. I think we're far too down the line now for it not to. But in this new age of transfers, anything can happen. So if I was I wouldn't put my house on it, to be honest.
No. See, I do actually think this one is maybe further advanced than what it was 2-3 days ago or anything like that. I think with the potential injury that Fabian Shaw picked up in the game against Brest, he did go off injured. Whether that's just Shaw just playing one of his usual hobbled off type thing, who knows? But yeah, he did go off with an injury. Maybe that accelerates things depending on the severity if he is injured at all. You want to say early?
Yeah, I didn't even realize Shaw had gone off, to be honest. Christ, that boy's an injury magnet, isn't he? Like every single game, it's either a concussion or some other kind of thing that he picks up. Usually a concussion. The only thing about the transfer window as well is that it doesn't resolve itself before the season starts, which I absolutely bloody hate. I can kind of understand if it's like, well, you know what, first few weeks you might pick up injuries and need to plug a gap or whatever, but it's not like these clubs have all this money lying around to do that, particularly for the club that ends up losing a player, it's like really, really frustrating. I guess, you've done all the preseason, you've done all the training, you've worked on the tactics, and then someone swoops in, takes off one of your star players, and it's like, oh, bloody great that was. We've already started the season. Now we've got this problem to deal with. I do tend to agree with Bobby in that usually when it's this far down the line, you kind of expect it to happen, but I wouldn't, the same as Bobby, I wouldn't put my house on it. He has been shrugging his shoulders when he was asked if he was staying or not, so he does seem open to the idea. I wouldn't necessarily expect him to try and force it through. And, moving to Chelsea from Palace, albeit in London, would be a lot easier for him to do in general than to come all the way up to the northeast. As we know, it's not an easy sell, and they can offer higher wages probably as well. So, well, not probably, they definitely can. So I don't know. There's still some variables involved. We are far away from the valuation if all these numbers are to be believed. I think it's still just a watch and wait at this point.
Yeah, we'll play the waiting game, albeit we're waiting for quite some time. And hopefully when we get this centre-back position nailed down, they can move on to a right wing. We're not going to talk about the right wing position in transfer detail today. That can be another pod if something emerges in the not-too-distant future. But we're now going to move on to the opening game of the season, which is a traditional 3 o'clock kickoff, Saturday afternoon. This Saturday coming, it is the opening game of the Premier League. It seems absolutely ages ago since we played Brentford when we beat them 4-2 down at their place when the season ended. Maybe it's because you have the Euros and then the Olympics in between, but it just seems so much longer in between seasons than previous. I don't know if you're clamming for the season to get back, Bobby.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It feels like we've missed a season, to be honest. I slept through one of the seasons, to be honest. But no, it's good. It'll be good to come back and get some normality in that, because I feel a bit disjointed at the moment when it comes to Newcastle. With these preseason cups, the Tour of Australia, which was fantastic, the Tour of Japan. Yeah. It just feels like there's been seasons happening that I haven't really been interested in, and now it's about to start. I don't think I've got that. I actually don't realise it's happening, if you know what I mean. But it'll be good once it starts. You get back that, the passion to watch and get up at fucking 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock every morning. And I lack sleep already, so I'm going to be worse for it. But can't wait and see what some of the preseason highlights and some of the stuff I've watched. I can see signs of us returning back to what we were a couple of years ago. The high intensity pressure up the pitch type of thing. I think that's sort of returning. I wonder if last season there was a bit disjointed with all the injuries and stuff like that. But I think from what I've seen, the players look very fit. They look like they brought that style back. Obviously, not having Europe will help us in terms of that as well. So I'm predicting, and this is dangerous, but I'm predicting a pretty positive season for us where we get back into Europe.
It's we need to get back to Europe, to be honest, and I don't want to blow our own smoke up our own horse or anything, but I do believe it's where the club belongs in European football. Has it been a long drawn out summer for you, Lee, waiting for the season to get back?
No, honestly, it hasn't. It's bloody flown by for me. Like the Euros came and went. Maybe because we had an interesting Gordon and Trippier there and other players, but obviously I'm thinking of England here. That it kept me kind of focused on the Newcastle aspect of things. Preseason in Japan and stuff, and even down in Melbourne, I wasn't kind of all that plugged into too much. So they kind of passed me by for the most part, really. But now it feels like this has just crept up again. Like it feels amazing that it's actually 6 days now until the start of the season, or 7 days, however it works out with the way it is. But with time difference. But it's I'm looking forward to it. And I hope that we get off to a good start, because I think we're going to need it.
We should do. Well, the start of games compared to last season is, at least on paper, an easier run. But what we're going to try and do now is predict the starting 11 for the Southampton game. Now, this is based on no new faces coming in, just what the current squad is right now. I'm going to bring up a starting 11 with some major positions missed out, but the key ones filled in. So, starting at the back, we've got Pope in goal. I think we can all agree Pope will be the number one choice between the sticks come kick-off, you reckon, lads?
He's looked pretty sharp as well.
Yeah, but there's
Yes,
about
yeah.
401. There's about 401 keepers on our books, so who knows?
It could
Yeah,
be John
we'll
Ruddy, who knows?
be losing,
But left
we'll
back,
be losing
I've
one soon
spotted Hall in
tomorrow.
there. Do you reckon Hall's got that position nailed down, or do you reckon maybe even Burn could come in on that one?
I think Hall's got that one.
I'd hopefully Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with Hall on that one. But then next one, the left centre back position. This one's quite open to debate, to be honest, because both Burn and Lloyd Kelly, who actually the assist for Barnes' goal last night with a cracking long range ball. There's every chance he could come in at that left centre back position, or Burn could come in with his experience and partnership alongside Shaw. Obviously, they know each other quite well. Shaw's position is nailed down, but who of those two between Kelly and Burn, who are you going for on that one, Bobby?
Who am I going for was different again to what Eddie would probably go for. I like Lloyd Kelly. I've liked him for a long time. I think he's a wonderful player, a leader. He was captain of Bournemouth. I've seen some stuff in the preseason I really like. He's a bit like Shah, where he knocks the ball in and behind, which I think will suit our game, particularly at St. James's. So I would prefer Lloyd Kelly there. And I think he's also a little bit quicker than what Burn is. So that would be my preference. But what I think Guehi will do will be put Burn there.
And your shout on that one, Lee?
I think it'll be down. Are we doing what we want or what we expect Eddie
Yeah,
Howe
what you
to do?
think? Aye.
What I'd rather
Well,
see.
who would you put in that position?
If I was going to do it, I would. Well, and also bear in mind that Shaw might be injured, as you've already pointed out. So,
Yeah, it could be.
This isn't necessarily as straightforward as it might sound. Because if Shaw is injured, I guess it's going to have to be Burn and Kelly, right? Because who else can we stick in the middle there, really? So that's probably it, really. If Shaw's knackered, it's going to be those two. If Shaw's fine, I probably still would. I haven't seen enough of Kelly, so I would probably start with Burn, even if it was me making the decision. And he might end up being captain as well. I don't know. Maybe it's Bruno. You've got that. I don't know. But yeah, I think Eddie will go with Burn, and I think I would do the same until I know what to expect from Kelly. But mind you, haven't said that.
I think you go with Burn as well.
We need pace.
What?
We're desperate for pace at the back. I've said it for bloody ages now. I think Mark said Kelly's fast, and Bobby, you've just touched on that a little bit there. So,
well, he's faster than Burn. That's all. It's not hard to do, but it's not hard to do. But I think I agree with you 100%. And that was my main justification for it. Is our pace at the back last season got us in so much shit. So having someone like Kelly, I think there rather than Burn is what I would prefer. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So we mentioned Shaw, if fit, his position is pretty much nailed in. Hopefully that is the case. But the right back one, it's quite a tricky one, this one, because you've got the experience of Trips, but obviously we know he's got a few personal issues going on. Whether those are now behind him and he's back to his best, time will only tell. But then you've got Tino, who ended the season very well, albeit with a slight injury. Lee, on this one, who would your choice be? Would it be Trips for the leadership? Or would it be Tino with his pushing forward with the ball, youth and energy?
Well, you sound like his agent there. Well, I want to see Tino. I want to see Tino. I want to see him in that position because I think he's absolutely fantastic. However, I think it has to be Trips until such time that he's not around or he is so bad that he can't be relied upon anymore. I think you'd be mad to drop a seasoned international like Trippier.
Bobby?
So
I think Trippier's season last year was enough justification to not have him start this season.
Yeah.
That's my personal point of view.
Yeah.
Tino for me.
So that's one vote for Trips, one vote for Tino. I'll go for Tino as well, to be honest. Yeah, I'll go for Tino as well. So that could be a pretty decent back line with hopefully both of England's future fullbacks in the starting lineup for the Southampton game. And obviously, Tino's got history with Southampton, being one of their former players.
That's true. Yeah, so, that's sometimes the reason not to play them as well, though, if it gets in their heads. I sometimes see Tino making mistakes that I'd rather he spend time getting out of his game, bombing up too far ahead and not being able to get back. And yes, Trippier did have a lot of problems last season, but a lot of that might have been with the situation with his lass and everything else going on. You don't know. Personal lives can be funny things. But how did he play in the friendly?
He played all right. Nothing outrageous, nothing fantastic. He seems fit. He's obviously had a bit of a break from the England game, so a bit of time to relax, get over any little niggles he may have had. But I don't think there's any difference between Trips or Tino going forward in that game. I'd be happy with either or starting, but my thing would be Tino. I just don't know why, but that just be my prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, it will be his position sooner or later. So yeah, but I think he can still learn a little bit from Trips, and Trips has got so much experience. You'd be mad to not use that while he's still playing.
Moving on to the midfield now. Pretty much Joe Linton and Bruno walk into that squad. They're probably the first names on the list, to be honest. That just leaves the third position in that three-man midfield. Few options on that one, but the main two, until Tonali is back, you're looking at Sean Longstaff or Joe Willock. Bob, you had a little chat before we came on air about this position, and you're not Sean Longstaff's biggest fan, so I'd imagine you're going to go with Willock on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think other than Tonali coming back, the Joe Linton, Bruno and Willock partnership for me was the most outstanding we had. Willock's running ability with the ball opened up space better than anyone else, and hopefully we get to see the best of him, because before his injuries, he was flying into England calculations, I feel. So if he's fit, he starts for me, because he's miles ahead of where Longstaff is.
Has he had, as Willock has he had much of a preseason himself?
He's been involved a little bit.
He played the second game in Japan. Didn't play much of it. It was only maybe 45 minutes. But he then had the second game he played last night. Maybe 60, 70 minutes, something like that he played. So he hasn't had much of a preseason, but he's definitely had some part to play. So
fitness could still be an equation that needs to be thought about there. Longy, obviously, I think he's played a fair bit, hasn't he, over preseason. He's got a couple of bangers, apparently. I think, God, I really wish Tonali could be playing in that position. Tonali, Joe Linton, and Bruno is a lovely midfield trio, isn't it?
Fantastic.
And Tonali looks like an absolute bulked up machine. He's been away for a year or whatever, but he's been working out. So it'd be excellent to see him back in it. In the meantime, I think going again with how Eddie Howe works, it'll probably be Longstaff. And I don't mind that, especially when you've got Willock to come on. If you want to change things up, bring a bit of pace in, bring a bit of late box threat that Willock does. So I reckon they'll start with Longy and probably bring on Willock when it's far too late.
Yeah, in the 89th minute, something like that. But I'm going to go with Longstaff as well. Just purely what you said, he's had a bit more preseason game time. I think Willock, he's not necessarily going to be eased back, but he's just going to struggle maybe in the first few games to get a full 90 minutes out of him. So we'll see how that goes with that one. Right side of midfield, we'll talk about this. Sorry, the right side of attack. We'll talk about this earlier on in this podcast. I've got Gordon down there. Is that position nailed? And then Isak up top. And that just leaves the right side of attack. Now, in terms of this position, would both of you like to see Gordon switch over to that one and Bonds on the left? Or would you be happy to see Miggy or Murphy take that right position? What would be your call? I'll come with you first on that one, Lee.
Well, as I kind of already touched on, I think I would like to see how the Bonds Gordon setup works. Both are very fast players. Both are very technically adept. And Gordon can cross the ball from that position as well as cutting in, I guess, and then obviously he's got to try and kick on his right foot. But still, I think I would like to see that, but I imagine it'll be Gordon left and probably Miggy on the right that Eddie goes with. He might surprise us with Murphy, reward him for his preseason. But if Eddie wants to do a lot of running in the first sort of half of the game, a little bit more maybe, then he's going to want pace and Although Murphy's not slow, mind you, but I think he usually looks at Miggy and thinks that guy can run for ages and ages and ages, So I think he'd probably go Gordon left and Miggy right, but I would love to see how Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right works.
It's definitely probably the most intriguing position that we need to get sorted come this Saturday. Your thoughts on it, Bobby? Who would you go with on the right?
I could not agree with Lee any more than I do right now. I think, he said it perfectly. I think, I do think that I'd like to see Barnes and Gordon up top there. I think you'll go with Miggy. Not a fan of it, but I understand. I prefer to see Murphy than Miggy, but I think, that's what will happen.
So if we'll read that back then. So we'll go through the starting 11 or our predicted starting 11. Hall at left back, and we reckon it's going to be Dan Burn as a 2-1 vote at that left centre back position. Shaw if fit, and I think it was Tino got the 2-1 vote for the right back position. Joe Linton and Bruno with the central midfield options, and I think it was Longstaff with a 2-1 vote for that other midfield. And we reckon Bonds on the left, Gordon on the right with Big Dog up top. Now, in terms of a starting 11, that's probably going to be the strongest we could field, and that should pose Southampton a hell of a few problems, you'd imagine, wouldn't you, Bobby?
I think if we're serious, we should be accounting for Southampton pretty easily. It's at home, isn't it? Get my bearings.
It is, aye.
Yeah, so I think whatever team we field, we're going to be strong, especially at St. James's. So I think I'm very confident of a first win. And looking at our fixture for the early part of the season, I think if we're going to make Europe, we've got to capitalise on the fixture. For the first time in a long time, I think the fixture guides have looked after us at the start of the season. So, it's a big chance for our club to really cement ourselves as back up there in the table. And I think it'll be comfortable against Southampton.
Do you echo those thoughts, Lee?
Yeah, I'm less comfortable, but I still think we'll win. But I didn't actually check this, but in my memory box, which is usually terrible, I remember particularly Southampton being difficult opposition last season. Adam Armstrong,
we smacked them, didn't we? Didn't we beat them like 12-0 or something?
Well, they were in the Championship last season, so obviously the season before, but we beat them in the league. Yeah, we beat them home and away, both times, and then we've done the double over them in the League Cup.
We did win, but they were difficult games. And I remember Armour, he came on as a sub and scared the living shit out of the back line and scored a goal, if I'm not mistaken, that probably should have been valid, but it was ruled out for offside or something like that. So I'm not quite, they've been in the Championship and usually you come up and they're not all that, but they've been in the Premier League for a long time. Dipping down and coming back up again doesn't mean you're suddenly like a Championship level team necessarily. We all know that from when we did it. So I don't think they are going to be just a kind of turn up and beat them kind of situation. I do think they will pose a threat. They did all right last season in the Championship. So did Burnley, mind you. But yeah, I think we'll win. I do think we'll win, but I think we'll have to hit the ground running. We've had a pretty good preseason, in fairness. That one defeat against that Japanese team, who was it, Fukushima or something like that, whoever it was, when they beat us.
I didn't know what you were going to say then, to be honest.
That was my best Japanese. Whoever it was, I forget what the damn name was, but they beat us fairly comfortably. Actually, they had pace about them. They were fast around us, and they beat us 2-0. And we looked lethargic and all over the place and out of ideas. Now, was that the same team as what we've just said here? No. Was the weather normal England weather? Absolutely not. It was fucking boiling. So all those things would have played into it. But, we don't typically do all that well against pacey teams. And if Southampton has that about them, and I'm not saying they do or don't, I don't know. But if they do have that about them, then we need to be at our very best to try and get something out of this first game. So fingers crossed. But I think we'll win. Do you want to do predictions? Should we do predictions?
I was just about to get that. I'll let you start off predictions on it.
I will go for a 2-1 home win, and I reckon Isaac will probably get them both. And that's it.
Bobby?
I guess there's.
All right, so I'm having a look at this. The win probability is Newcastle 72%, 16% for a draw, and 12% for Southampton to win. The last 5 head-to-head, we've won all 5, but they have been closely. There's been, the last one was 3-1, then 2-1, 1-0, 4-1, and 2-1. So with that all in mind, I'm saying 6-0.
I'll take that for an opening day win all day long. So you got that here, yeah? You get yourself to the bookies 6-0. Bobby said it's going to happen. I'd like to see what odds you've got on that one. But I'm going to go for a 3-0 home win, and I'm going to get Isak on an opening day hat-trick. I think that would be cementing his legacy again for how good of a striker he is with an opening day hat-trick.
Has he? He hasn't had a hat-trick yet, has he?
Nah.
He's done a
He's
few
got
braces.
close. He's got a few braces, but no, he's never had a hat-trick yet.
No, that'd be nice. That'd be a nice way to start your season, wouldn't it? Jesus.
He's definitely due one. And, you know, Southampton, they'll be terrified of what he can offer. He absolutely tore apart the first game, the defence in the first game. Unlucky not to score, and he missed that penalty. But some of his touches and turns and twists were just absolutely sensational. He's going to be one hell of a player if he can stay fit in this coming season. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win with an Isak hat-trick.
Very nice. He did look very
Anyone
sharp.
got anything they want to add to that? Wanley?
No, Isaac, he did look very sharp in that game. He looked alert. He looked like he was keen for it. He was mad for it. He was having it. Let's hope that that carries through into the season. And I've just, it'd be nice not to get any injuries as well. Let's just try not to get any injuries early doors. Let's just push them down the line a little bit. But yeah, I'm getting excited now. I've had this conversation now, and I'm starting to get a little kind of a little bit butterflies in the stomach, So yeah, look forward to it now.
Yep. Well, we'll leave it there. Let us know your predicted starting 11 in the comments below, and also what your prediction would be as well, and also what you think of the Marc Guehi situation, if you think he will or will not be signing, and we'll try to respond to all the comments that we get. Otherwise, hit us up on the socials. You are on the usual Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Come and catch us on there. And if you don't subscribe to the channel already, please do so. It really helps us out massively. But thank you to both Lee and Bobby for joining me today. I will catch you on the next one. And again, keep an eye out for the interview with George Culkin, with hopefully should be landing sometime midweek, I believe. But thank you, lads. I will catch us both on the next one.
Cheers, boys.